The actual meeting of Hubert Givenchy and Audrey Hepburn is quite a great story in terms of film and fashion lore. Audrey knew about fashion and knew who Givenchy was, and she wanted him to do her costumes for Sabrina.
I think this was the second year that he was in business, and he got a call about 2 weeks before the collection was supposed to open that Miss Hepburn wanted to come up and get some clothes. So, of course, he immediately thought it was Katharine Hepburn because Audrey Hepburn was fairly new to the scene and not many people knew of her. And he got very excited and, in the middle of this preparation for a collection, opened the door, and there is, this waif in pencil slim black pants and ballerina flats and gold hoop earrings. Not at all Katharine Hepburn, but, marvelous looking nonetheless.
And he resisted, and he was very charming and polite and nice. He said, look, I just don't have the time.
But you're welcome to look at last season's clothes. And Audrey went to the racks and pulled out 3 iconic outfits.
The extraordinary white dress that we see on the tennis court. The very, very fitted suit that she wore at the Glen Cove train station when she gets picked up by William Holden, who does not recognize the chauffeur's daughter, and that beautiful evening dress with the 2 little bows on it. And Audrey wore them, and they looked beautiful, and a star was born. When Sabrina opened, it was so exciting. He came out to Hollywood. He'd never been to America before. And he was sitting next to Audrey at the opening, and the movie's running, and it's a great success, and everyone loves it. And at the very end, all the credits come up, and it said, Costumes by Edith Head. And Audrey apparently was mortified. Givenchy was very much a gentleman and said, I'm sure there's a misunderstanding. It doesn't really matter. And at the end, it didn't matter because those outfits were so memorable that it really created an indelible stamp of who Audrey Hepburn was in our consciousness.
The thing about Givenchy that is so special is that he came at a particular time in fashion. He came to fore as a young designer in the early 50s. He opened his house, I believe, in 1951 or 1952. And just at the time he was opening his house, he met Audrey Hepburn.
She was 24 and he was 26. They were both lively, energetic, deeply, deeply intelligent, extremely disciplined. They were absolute equals, and I think more importantly for Audrey, she trusted him. She'd grown up, without a father. So I think the fact that Hubert was someone that she could be open with emotionally and trust, and anything that she wanted, he would do for her and vice versa.
The 2 of them were, as Audrey always said, like brother and sister. There was this immense love between them. He, having Audrey, inspired him, and Audrey always said that, wearing Hubert's clothes was like wearing armor. It protected her. It made her feel safe because she was never particularly confident as an actress. She always felt that, she did an adequate job, but not a great job. And so she said anything that could help her do that job better, she really wanted to take advantage of it. And she felt that Hubert's clothes always did that for her. She definitely had things about her body that she did not like. She thought her neck was too long. We, of course, all think her neck was swan-like. She thought her nose was funny. She thought her feet were too big. She thought her shoulders were too wide. But these were all things that Givenchy took into consideration.
She definitely figured out what worked for her very early on and refined those looks, but really stuck to them her whole life.
It was never overt, sexy. That was not her style at all. It was a timeless look, and there are very few women that we know of who have that kind of timeless style. Jacqueline Onassis, of course, Grace Kelly to a certain degree. But I think that's why Audrey is so iconic, is because, women of all ages, from different ages, look at her style and see it as something they would love to emulate.
I'm going to select a girl to be the quality woman. This one girl will represent everything the magazine stands for.
It's a great gimmick. Well, any one of these models would be all right.
She's got to be more than all right. She's got to have pizzazz. An entire collection's going to be designed for her by the greatest couturier in Paris.
I think anyone who's a fashion designer considers funny face sort of ground zero when it comes to fashion and romance and the glamour of the fashion business. It encompasses so many things that, people who are creative love.
There's so many beautiful outfits. And again, in the 50s, most Americans did not know French haute couture. They did not know Givenchy. And to see this beautiful, beautiful clothing gracing the screen, even now, it's wonderful to watch.
one that's probably the least typical and yet very interesting representation of where Givenchy's career was at the time, when they were on the Bateau Mouche, and she's in the white pants and the little crop top and the pink sash. I thought that was incredibly modern when you think of the era and the time. It's a very chic look. It's slightly bohemian and yet very much Audrey Hepburn at the same time. You can almost not envision anyone else wearing that and getting away with it. Very chic, the 9/10 coat over the dress. It's a suit, but it's not the typical suit of the period. And then worn with the taupe velvet hat. I thought it was very understated, and yet it really exuded luxury and looked incredible. And of course, then there is the fantastic chiffon dress when she's in front of the Winged Victory coming down the stairs at the Louvre, which of course Avedon in his infinite imagination transforms that from a red dress to a green dress to a royal blue dress, all in one sequence. Probably the dress that most people remember is the wedding dress. And that, again, is very unusual for the time. The idea of the drop torso and the fact that it was not a floor-length dress was very, very daring for its time. Part of the magic of both Givenchy and Audrey is that it is timeless. Almost 50 years later, people still want to look like that. That's still the ideal of so many women, younger and older.
Both separately and together, Hubert and Audrey, are sort of the high point for that classic style, fashion, on screen. And it was a great coming together of two very, very special individuals. Their talent is so unique, it's almost like gold. You can't reduce it, you can't take it away, you can't refine it. It is what it is.
I think they were both modern masters of their respective métiers. And the clothes never wore Audrey, which I think is really, really important. You always saw her. You noticed the clothes, but, it wasn't about the clothes. It was about the woman wearing the clothes. And I think that was also Givenchy's genius in dressing her.
And with Hubert and Audrey working together, it is the clothing that communicated so much of her style, her intelligence, her generosity, her sexiness, her sense of humor. So it's the clothing working together with Audrey's innate persona that just brings it through the screen.